Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take the plunge into the heart of your most intriguing reads. You sent us a real page-turner this time, a screenplay called Forsaken, with the main character Sasha Roberts, who you're dying to understand. And trust me, after reading this, I get it. This isn't just your average tale of a woman on the rise. This one's got layers. Sasha's life is captivating, successful news anchor on the verge of hitting the big time, living life on her own terms. But from the very beginning, the screenplay hints at a darkness simmering beneath the surface.
What's fascinating is how the screenplay sets up this tension between freedom and security right from the get-go. It's not just about good versus bad choices, it's about the very real anxieties many of us face today, right? Wanting it all, a career, love, independence, but knowing society often makes us choose, especially as women.
And Sasha, she's not choosing. She's got that vintage Mercedes Althea, which, by the way, is a character in itself. And that scene at the gym with her friend Lila, remember? They're not just debating about guys. They're clashing over two very different ways of being a woman in today's world. Lila, she's all about playing it safe, urging Sasha to settle down, even using that loaded phrase, cock carousel, to describe Sasha's dating life. Ouch. It's like she's internalizing all those societal judgments about women and relationships.
Exactly. Lila represents that voice of caution, warning Sasha about the risks of bucking convention. But then Sasha throws back that statistic about car accidents being more dangerous than dating. It's a bold statement, suggesting that she'd rather live life on her own terms, even if it means facing potential danger. The question is this bravery or recklessness?
That's what makes this deep dive so juicy, right? Because on one hand, you admire Sasha's guts, her refusal to be put in a box. On the other, you can see that train wreck coming from a mile away.
And then enters Beck. He's the catalyst that throws Sasha's world into a tailspin, but not before sweeping her off her feet. This is where the screenplay gets really clever.
Oh, tell me about it. Mysterious stranger at a bar, that whole bad boy with a heart of gold vibe. He even drops that he was in the military, shows her a picture with his half-brother, Amen. Little do we know that seemingly insignificant detail is going to come back with a vengeance.
The way I see it, Beck is almost like a blank slate onto which Sasha projects her desires. He represents excitement, danger, a break from the ordinary. But it makes you wonder, is she blinded by her own desires, or is there something more deliberate going on, a need to push boundaries to challenge those societal norms Lila was so worried about?
Ooh, good question. Is this Sasha's subconscious self-destruction or just a case of bad judgment? I mean, things go from 0 to 60 the second she lets Beck into her life.
It's like a switch flips. The vandalized car, the hacked security system, those creepy text messages. Remember that chilling line he quotes from Proverbs? Something about an adulteress. It's like he's setting himself up as judge, jury, and executioner all rolled into one.
Talk about red flags, am I right? He goes from charming to creepy in the blink of an eye.
And we start to get these glimpses into his past. That detail about him studying to be a priest. Did something happen to make him abandon that path? What was his relationship with Amun really like? The screenplay leaves us breadcrumbs, hinting at a darkness beneath the surface.
Okay, so we've got Sasha, yearning for freedom but maybe playing with fire. And we've got Beck, charming on the surface, but with this air of mystery and menace.
This is where the real deep dive begins, because we have to ask ourselves, what motivates these characters? Are they driven by love, revenge, a need for control?
And how will their choices ultimately play out? Buckle up, listener, because things are about to get really real in Act 2.
And in Act 2, things really start to unravel for Sasha. Remember Lila's warnings about the risks Sasha was taking? They weren't just about physical safety, but also about the court of public opinion.
Oh, absolutely. Layla knew how quickly things could turn sour, especially for women who dare to challenge those double standards.
And that's exactly what Beck exploits. He weaponizes those societal judgments against her, turning her lifestyle, her choices, into weapons.
It's like he took everything Lila feared and made it a reality.
Precisely. He systematically dismantles her life, starting with that brutal public humiliation campaign.
That scene at the coffee shop still makes me cringe. The way he tries to buy everyone's approval at Sasha's expense, it's such a calculated move, making her look irresponsible, frivolous, like she deserves whatever's coming to her.
It's a classic power play, using money and public perception to undermine her credibility. And let's not forget those threatening text messages laced with religious guilt and shame. It's almost like a form of spiritual abuse, preying on her insecurities and making her question her own sanity.
You really feel for Sasha in this part of the screenplay. She's trying to hold on to her career, her reputation, but Beck just keeps tightening the screws.
And then comes the sexual harassment claim. Talk about a gut punch. It's a brilliant, albeit twisted move on Beck's part. He uses Sasha's past relationships, her openness about her sexuality, against her, turning her into the wanton woman those Proverbs verses implied.
It's infuriating to think that he could just make those accusations and have them be taken seriously, especially in this day and age. But as Layla points out, it becomes a he said, she said situation, and unfortunately we know how those often play out.
Exactly. And the screenplay doesn't shy away from that uncomfortable reality. Sasha's career, her livelihood, is suddenly on the line because of this decency clause in her contract.
Which is insane, right? It's like her personal life is suddenly everyone's business. The double standard is glaring.
Absolutely. The screenplay highlights the impossible tightrope women in the public eye are forced to walk. Be successful, but not too ambitious. Be attractive, but not too provocative. One wrong step, and it all comes crashing down.
And in Sasha's case, it's Beck who pushes her off that tightrope. He forces her to take a leave of absence, her reputation in tatters. For a moment, it seems like he's won.
But here's where the screenplay takes another unexpected turn. Remember those threatening text messages? The ones Wendy, the HR rep, receives, they're all coming from a withheld number.
It's like a tiny detail, but it plants this seed of doubt. Could be someone else pulling the strings, maybe an ex, a jealous colleague, or
Iman. Don't forget about Iman. We haven't seen him yet, but his presence looms large over the entire story.
Okay, now things are getting really interesting. What if this goes beyond Beck's vendetta? What if there's a larger conspiracy at play?
That's the beauty of the screenplay. It keeps us guessing, forcing us to question everything we think we know.
And just when you think you've got it all figured out, Forsaken throws another curveball your way. But we'll get to that in a bit. First, let's take a moment to unpack what this deep dive has revealed so far about power, manipulation, and the price of freedom. It's in this final act of Forsaken where the tension, well, it really goes through the roof.
It does.
We've got Sasha reeling from Beck's attacks, trying to figure out what's real and what's him messing with her head.
Yeah, and the screenplay doesn't let up on that psychological thriller aspect, does it?
Not at all.
It's like we're right there with Sasha, feeling paranoid and second-guessing everything.
Especially with those cryptic text messages. Beck keeps sending, always watching, always a step ahead. You start to think, is he working alone or is there someone else?
And that's where Eamon, Beck's half-brother, becomes central to the mystery. Up until this point, he's just this shadowy figure, right?
Oh, right.
Mentioned but never seen.
We only have Beck's word for it, who Eamon is, what their relationship was like.
Yeah.
But then there's that picture Pauly shows Sasha, the one of Beck and Eamon together.
Right.
It's like, wait a minute.
That photo is crucial, yeah, because it makes you think, maybe Eamon isn't just some figure from the past.
Exactly.
Maybe he's a real and present danger, maybe even the mastermind.
Like, what if Beck is carrying out Eamon's revenge for something Sasha may have done?
Ooh, that's a chilling thought.
It is.
And it really adds another layer to the story because the screenplay makes you decide. Is Eamon real, or is he all in Beck's head?
Ooh, I like that.
A figment of his imagination.
Yes.
Or a puppet master.
Yes. And that final scene in Beck's loft, it's just...
Oh, so good.
Sasha finally confronts him, sees through his act. But it feels like she's walked into a trap.
Yes, and the screenplay ends on such an ambiguous note, doesn't it?
That's the worst.
Leaving us with more questions than answers. Does Sasha escape? Does she expose Beck? What about Eamon, if Eamon is even real? Or does she become another casualty?
It really makes you think. And it sticks with you. That's what's so great about this deep dive and about Forsaken, right?
Right.
It's more than just a story.
It is. It's a reflection.
It's a reflection of those fears we all have, losing control, manipulation, that line between freedom and, well, going too far.
It's about those choices we make.
Yes.
And what they mean for ourselves and the people around us.
So, listener, what do you think? Does Sasha break free? Is Eamon a ghost from the past or the one really in control? There's no right or wrong answer, but we want to hear your take on this wild ride. And that's a wrap on another deep dive. Remember, the world is full of stories out there waiting to be explored. Until next time, keep those pages turning and those questions coming.